No, okay. Have you spoken with anyone regarding the ordinances or the variances that we'll consider tonight?
No.
No. And do any of you anticipate perhaps not needing to vote or being able to vote on any of the items tonight?
No.
All right. If you have some thoughts on the minutes, we can continue along with the agenda.
We got a new item here, B. Approval of agenda first.
Yep.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, this is an agenda for this meeting.
Correct.
That is a new item.
It is a new item.
All right, we have a motion made to approve this agenda,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Babcock. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now we will consider the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from March 19th.
One second.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to approve the minutes from the last Board of Appeals meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we're into our new business. We have Mount Associates here. Is there Mr. Bia? Yes, yes. This is item 1 regarding the property on 1589 Main Street. Will there be anyone other people wishing to speak on this item tonight? You'll hear me asking this for every item. And you've identified yourself for the benefit of the minutes?
Steve Beta with Mount Associates.
Very good. Okay, you have a case to make on why we should grant this variance.
Yeah, there's actually a couple of variances being requested here. Less than 15 feet, a setback from the right-of-way line with the pavement. The second one is multiple access points to the site. And the third one is for the amount of impervious surfaces that exist on the site. You have a small commercial corner here. It used to be some other businesses in the past. When I went back in time, this site was basically fully paved or gravelled. I'm not sure if it was ever really paved or gravelled. It's hard to tell from the older photographs, but parking was done all the way up to the right-of-way at that point in time. And essentially, what happened is through time, I think the gravel, you can see the picture, basically grew. I think the grass or weeds or whatever it is grew through the gravel that's there now. But the way the guy wants to use the site now is to do it as a used car parking lot and park cars up to that right-of-way line all the way around. But in order to do that and make the site of any value at all, he has to be able to get these variances to park up to those lines, or you really hamper the site so much that there really is no usable space left in the middle. It becomes very small. So that's the reason we need to park up to the right-of-way line based on the sketch that I sent you. Obviously, that doesn't come through very well. There are parking lines on there to show where the vehicles would park. Essentially, the black is going to be parking lot or paved, where it's currently gravel or blacktop or concrete right now already existing. So they just want to reuse the site essentially the way it was used in the past. On the Elizabeth side, there are a couple of access points there. They want to keep them there because it gives them the ability to get in and out of there easier, just because it is such a small site. Travel around that building isn't the easiest, so having 2 access points just makes it better for that site. There actually is even a third access point right here, actually, right in the picture you have in front of you, that comes in. That would actually have to be closed, but the other 2 access points are to the right or to the north of this site right here, or this access point. So they'd like to keep those. As far as the impervious, it's basically all gravel right now, and if you do the numbers for pavement versus gravel, if gravel's been compacted over time, it has the same runoff factors basically as pavement, as far as being impervious. That's how it is right now. So those are the reasons we want to keep it that way and essentially, reuse it, pave it, and clean it up, use it as a used car lot.
Okay, so you've been hired by your client to decide what needs to be done, to do what he wants to do on this piece of property, and it entails 3 variances. That's why you're here. Okay, I think I understand. This was once a gas station.
I believe it was, yeah.
I
thought
drove
it
by
was
it
even
every
tore
day for
down, yeah.
40 years.
Wasn't it
so-
tore down even?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
yeah.
So it was all concrete before, is that what
Well,
you?
this is from 2000, it's a little easier to see, but that's what was there before.
Is
And
that,
that came right up to the corner, that building's gone, but yeah, you can see they used, and the whole thing was paved and used as a gas station, but I think when they took it down, whether they took the blacktop off or not, again, from that picture, I can't quite tell how they did it, but it was a gas station at one time, that's a 2000 photo. So the site was fully used, you can see how they were parking all the way around the perimeter of the site. And this owner obviously owns this building now, and wants to use that as the hub, I guess, for the business, and then use the internal part as the parking.
Yeah, I think by the time this picture was taken, it might have been just a repair
That's what I
shop.
thought, yeah, I don't remember exactly what was going on
The
back then,
gas station would have been back in the
earlier, yes.
70s.
Same building, but
80s, yeah. Okay, now I'm not familiar, there's a building here, is that what you're saying?
Yep. All the roads running, it could go back to the air photo, yeah.
That's
Gillian
looking,
TV, I think.
Yeah, that is, it. It's hard to tell, but the building to the right with the orange front on, that's the building. It's
That's
just,
the building, okay.
it's a weird, just looks strange on the
building
picture.
here.
Oh, yeah, okay, now I understand it, yep.
that's gonna stay?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the place that used to be like a TV store,
I think so.
electronics store, and now it's something else.
Gilliam, is that what it's?
Gilliam.
Gilliam TV or something like that.
And there used to be a restaurant right back here. It burned down several
Burnt down
years ago.
quite
I'm
a-
just trying to remember, make sure
It used to
my
be Sneakers,
memory is correct, yeah.
Sneakers bar.
Right, that's just north where the parking area is. so.
Okay, one other thing, maybe I'm missing this, maybe you made it very clear and I'm missing it, but did you say that the owner of this property
He
owns
owns
this
both
property?
properties, correct.
Okay.
This property.
Yeah,
I'm just making sure, so this
Yeah.
one's the south and this one's,
so he's not proposing to combine them in any way. He's proposing to use this one for perhaps a different use than the other one?
Yeah, I believe, well, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, or Stephanie, the zoning line actually is north of the property line, so he would have to probably attach that portion to the corner to make this work. The property to the north has dual zonings, you can see the property line on that, it's kind of hard to see, but really the property line runs, well, you can see the blue is the piece that's on the corner actually, and then the building, the zoning line is on the north side of the building that's there, but that is different tax parcel of record, so they would have to do a little bit of attachment of that property to take all the zoning and put it onto one parcel, so we'd have to detach a little bit of the property to the north and attach it to the corner property, which would be the building and then, some of the surrounding parking around that building to make it viable, I guess.
Any other questions, you guys?
well, so, just so I'm on the same page, the solid blue line on this picture is the lot that the variance is requested for.
Right, but like Steve said, the zoning line goes beyond the property line to the north, just north of the building.
So that's what that dotted blue line is.
So it's
Hence why
treated as
the-
one site, basically.
That's why the second parking lot is included, or parking
Access point.
access point.
So you go further north at C1, that doesn't permit auto sales, so he's trying to clean it up a little bit and take what he can. He needs the building, he needs the zoning, so he's just reestablishing that line.
Got it, okay, cool, thank you.
Noel, Greg, Tom, any more questions? Okay, sir, if you could have a seat, then consider. Yeah, I think Stephanie's noted that. Your thoughts, gentlemen? I don't like it, I'll tell you that right now. With that, to tee it up, what are your considerations?
When I was looking at this one, my initial thought was, it was already dirt before, I didn't go by and see it, but it was already used as something in that photo that he brought, was showing it in 2000, using it as something as well. I just kind of question, what is it going to be used for at some point, kind of thing, you know, and if it was already, my thoughts are if it's already was being in this situation, I would at least consider that they could use it as it was being used before. That was my thought. I'd be curious to see what other people's anti-thoughts were.
Okay, I'll save mine.
Okay.
If we could go back a couple, to where we have the Main Street picture, yeah, okay. As you see where Main Street is annotated there, I believe, there was an archery shop in there and a billiards hall for a little while.
Yep.
And a bar.
Yep.
And those storefronts actually butt right up to the sidewalk. There's no space. So as far as the folks requesting a variance to park cars that close to the sidewalk, I'm okay with that part of it. Okay, because that's gonna be consistent with the way the existing properties have been. I'm still a little puzzled on the rest of it, but that part of the variance I'd be okay with.
Which one are you talking about then?
What's the 15-foot setback?
Oh, okay.
Can, so he owns this lot up here. Can that be in part of our consideration at all?
No,
They can't, okay.
it's an interesting factoid.
Yeah.
It does look like it is pretty consistent with how the others are laid out. You just don't like the way, because he owns the other parcel? Is that your
No,
thought?
my concern here is that, and maybe I'm just a little bit too optimistic about what Green Bay may have in mind for the east side, but if we allow this variance, and then that corner is probably used for something like that forever. And there's getting to be, frankly, a lot of the used car lots on the east side. And the particular concern I have here is that we have the Baird Creek Trail. And that's what's coming up on, from the right, comes up to Elizabeth, you walk on the sidewalk a little bit, you can either continue across or you can, go back down Main Street. But I guess to the extent that Green Bay may have some plans to, or hopes to, have a little bit of redevelopment in that area, which is very old and industrial, I guess you could call it. I hate to take this Cornerstone lot out of commission right away, simply on the basis that it was used for a gas station once, and the buildings next to it are right up to the lot line. So I'll look over at Paul at the end of the table. Is there anything you can enlighten us on, or any plans Green Bay may have for this area and the broader scheme of things?
There aren't any immediate plans that I'm aware of for redevelopment outside of this project. I think the property owner maybe has bigger thoughts about the piece to the north, and what might occur there. I can't speak any further to that, I guess. But there aren't any immediate plans for redevelopment there.
Okay.
Simply put, it's the zoning. There's current C2 zoning on the corner, there's C1 to the north. It's a commercial lot. It's ripe for redevelopment, so to speak.
Yeah,
This is the first use
unfortunately,
that's come in.
That's where we are. We're at this point where we've got a lot that's probably not good for a lot of different things. And yet, I take it as a sign of optimism that it's at least owned by the guy who has it to the north, and maybe something can be done to properly develop it more than what's being proposed. I just think that for us to grant this variance, and it's just my one vote, we'd be forestalling a lot of potentially better development of that corner. And I guess I'll go back to saying, I think the trail is what probably leads me to believe the way I do the most.
The trail you're talking about, this guy right here, right?
On the other side.
Yep.
It goes like this and then goes back
Yep.
down around?
Yep,
That, how is that impact in your thoughts, based on that corner there?
comes right up to Elizabeth Street.
On the
It's-
opposite
it's
side?
there. It's on the opposite side of the street, yes. It's there.
Okay.
I guess from my perspective, you know, a site used as a car lot is a lot easier to redevelop than a site that you put a building on or, you know, something else. The use itself is permitted. It's consistent with other uses up and down the street currently. And, you know, as you noted, the parking right up to the sidewalk is no big fizz when you've got BBs and the other stuff that's kind of going right up there as well, to the sidewalk. And as far as the drives go, I mean, you know, I think that's neither here nor there. That traffic, that street is pretty heavily trafficked at times, and there's a lot of commercial traffic on it. I guess I don't see as big a fizz here, you know, as maybe somebody might. I'm in favor of improving it.
I'm kind of with Noel. I'm not seeing that's big of an issue with that there across the street, given the layout of the land around there and traffic and so forth. So I would be okay with that.
You're okay with it, Tom?
Yeah, I think too, to the point about other existing car lots, there's, if you look at the Main Street annotation, if you head left from that, there's one, you know, going that way, and then if you head right, you've got McDonald's, and then there's another
There's
one
another
kind of
right next
squeezed in
lot,
next to the
I
lumber
know,
yard. So
I know.
I guess if you're looking for a used car, it's gonna be a little bit of a gold mine for you.
Yeah, just go back to Henry Street and you'll find some more. So there's a lot around there.
Yeah.
Okay, I suspect I'm outvoted, so I'll concede to the motion that you guys may care to put forward.
I move to approve the variances as requested.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Alverson, seconded by Mr. Hoy to accept the variance request that's been placed before us as it has been described to us. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That would be me, 4-1. You're good?
Thank you, sir.
Yep. You can take this back with you, or if you prefer,
You're welcome to have it.
Okay, the next one is the property on Maple Street. Who is here to speak regarding that? Are you Mr. Techmeyer?
I am.
And before we get going too much further, will there be anybody else that wishes to speak on this issue? Okay, are you,
And I'm Roxanne Krieger, I own the house next door.
okay, could we get to you second? Sure. After we get to Mr. Techmeyer? Because I definitely do want to hear from the house next door. Okay, Mr. Techmeyer, could you make your case?
Yeah, so we're currently working on a remodel project at 159 North Maple, turning it from a 4-family into a single-family home. Currently, there's no garage, and all there is parking, and there's 2 separate driveways, one from Hubbard, one from North Maple. So the 2 variances we're asking for are the impervious space requirements and the rear yard setback. Our plans, this is the only, in our opinion, spot that would fit a garage, and there's currently an attached structure to the building which we would be ripping off to accommodate the garage. But the driveway that's from North Maple, it's a kind of a shared driveway, but our half we would be ripping out, and then it kind of curves around, so it walks all the way back there. So we would actually, we're already over the 50% impervious space, but adding the garage and ripping out the driveway, we'd actually be increasing our amount of impervious space, which would be beneficial. As far as the rear yard setback, we figure for a house this size, it's gonna be about 3,300 square feet. Whoever is gonna be purchasing it is probably gonna have 2 vehicles. So a 2-stall garage is almost necessary, and I guess the minimum width for that would probably be about 20 feet, but we're asking for 22 feet wide, which would only put our rear yard setback at 2 feet. With that, if you guys have any questions,
Where do they park now?
just in the driveway, there's no garage.
Oh, okay. And there's tenants in there, or is that?
No, it's
set up,
actually
or-
vacant.
Okay.
I believe it was it's a 4-unit building it had a commercial space with it, but we're working on converting it back to a single-family home,
Okay.
to revitalize the neighborhood.
This is like a total restart.
Yeah, yeah, right now, actually, it's down to the studs, we're doing all the electrical, plumbing, heating, cooling, pretty much everything.
Yeah, when I visited the site, it's like there's two access.
Yeah, and we'd be getting rid of the one from North Maple. I'm assuming they just had all that parking because they had 4 tenants plus a commercial use to it, so they needed ample parking. But, since it's gonna be a single-family home, we won't need as much.
So this driveway that you access from North Maple, you're gonna turn that into lawn, or?
Yeah, yeah, just plant grass, do some landscaping.
So the entry for the garage is behind the house, down that alley?
Well, actually, that driveway from Hubbard, on the north, that's our driveway. There is an alley, that's our driveway right there. So right where you see it, there's a set of stairs right there, that's where our garage would be. To the right of the house next door is the alleyway, which we are not connected to in any way.
Now, you're the owner?
I am the owner,
Okay.
I am the contractor.
And the contractor, and you're redoing the house to sell it as a
Single family home.
single-family home?
Yep.
Okay. Have you considered a series garage instead of a parallel garage?
We have, but to have a series garage, I think, first of all, it would be a hassle if you didn't have a garage door on the back end. And if you did have a garage door on the back end and wanted to use it to pull out, then we'd need to maintain that driveway. And part of our development agreement with the city of Green Bay on this property is to get rid of that part of the driveway.
Okay. Questions, gentlemen?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just like to note, I work for a company that was a bidder on this project with the city.
Okay.
And although we weren't selected, I've been working collaboratively with the city in my employment to, redevelop this site and work on other areas in this neighborhood. So if it's all right with you, I'll recuse myself from any discussion
Okay.
on this item.
I think that's advisable. Further thoughts, gentlemen? Okay, sir, if you could have a seat. Ma'am?
Yes, I own the house at 611 Hubbard Street, and if you were to go back to that front on Hubbard Street, you'll notice at the end of the grass, that's the end of my lot line. And both these houses were built before 1930, and obviously, my house is on a half a lot, and probably the backyard at one time of this other property. If he builds that garage, it's gonna be less than 7 feet from my property line. And tenants sleep right there next to the garage, and the parking lot, the parking for them is right behind it. And that is extremely close to the house and possible fire hazard.
If I understand it correctly,
And I know he's gonna take the porch off, but if he's gonna put 2-stall garage, I was actually thinking he was only gonna put a 1-stall garage at first. But there's no way that you're gonna be able to put a 2-stall garage without being almost butt up against my house.
it seems as if he's gonna be 4 feet from your house.
4 feet, but it's 7 feet by zoning, by code.
By code, right.
Yes.
But he's proposing a situation that puts the wall of his garage 4 feet from your house.
Right. That's what I'm objecting to.
Yeah.
And just so your house is this one?
So if you
Or
were to
this
go
one?
back one spot, the one
Well, on this map, where?
611.
right there, that house, that gray house is my house.
611
The one
Hubbard.
up, butt up against the alley.
611 Hubbard.
Yep.
Okay.
If I got understood correctly, sir, that you'd be proposing a construction that would put a wall 4 feet from the wall of her house?
Yeah, that is correct.
2 and 2?
Because- Well, originally I figured that her house is 2 feet off the lot line, so I was asking for 2 feet off the lot
Okay.
line as well, so
Okay.
yes.
And again, so I'm tracking, if it was accurate, it would be 5 feet, so 2.5 feet, correct, to code? It has to be
Yeah.
2.5 feet from?
25 feet.
Oh, 25.
So this is a rear yard setback. So the front obviously is towards North Maple, this is the rear yard.
But even let's accept that. What if it was okay in that regard?
If it was a detached, then it could be,
What if it was attached, but it was a normal side yard instead of a rear?
8 feet.
Because it's a tall house.
It's a story and a half or higher.
Do, I was gonna ask this of Noel, but I can't now. So you can tell me, what types of plans and what types of discussions has the city already entered into regarding this house that we should be aware of?
I'm not sure I can speak to that necessarily. Ken is here and he can speak to that. We did do a conditional use permit recently for this to be converted from a 4-unit to a single unit. Ken is with our department, if you wouldn't mind, he can
Yeah.
elaborate more.
I'd love to hear.
Yeah, so as part of the redevelopment authority, we're looking at kind of working on that entire neighborhood and creating some opportunities for home ownership. So this property, when it became available, the RDA took ownership of it and then has been working with, we put out an RFP to try to find a developer to bring this back down to a single-family home. So, I mean, I guess where our goal is for that entire neighborhood, we're starting to work and they're using this one as a catalyst for that neighborhood, so.
Ma'am, is your concern deal with the noise of traffic going in and out, or what?
No,
exactly?
mostly for fire hazard, and there's 2 windows on the, or 3 windows, their kitchen and their living room, and the upstairs isn't such a problem, but the downstairs, that's their bedroom. They're gonna look out the window and see a garage. They're gonna see nothing but a garage, a wall up against their window. They're not gonna be able to look out the window. And they have never come, if this house has been empty, I've owned this property for 13 years, and this house has been empty probably a good 9 years of it. And it has been a trouble problem property adjacent to mine. We've seen squatters going in and out of that property. I know the police have worked with that property extensively before they took over.
So right now, they have an 8-foot view.
They have an 8-foot, they see the back, they see the old house, they see and yes, they are fixing it up. They're not even objecting to the fixing it up. But I don't see having a garage and also a fire hazard. I mean, if something were to burn up in that garage, my house is going down. My house is a 1929, older than, I found a 1929 listing. Somebody else told me it was 1925. So this house is old, but it's also well kept. I've been doing my best to keep that place up and keep decent tenants, and I put electrical around the alley. The police have appreciated me putting lighting into that alley, so that way the property gets rid of the riprap. I mean, we've been doing everything we can to keep it a decent neighborhood. And I don't really want a garage up against the house to, if I knew it wasn't going up against my house, if it was gonna be back a little bit, maybe, because right now it's our driveway against, but it's too close to the house.
Well, looking at the other driveway that they have conceded they were gonna remove with the
Right.
city, okay?
Right.
Well, I mean, one of the mandates of living in Green Bay is you're likely gonna have a couple cars.
Oh, no, I don't have a problem with cars. It's the garage. That garage can be considered, I mean, are they gonna put a firewall against that wall? I mean, for my property to be prevented from being damaged, if there was something to go up against it, I mean, I would like to know, I mean, like I said, it's 7 feet from the lot line. If you look at the driveway, it's the middle of the driveway if it's 7 feet from my lot line.
Well, just to be clear, it's 2 feet from your lot line.
Right, but that's not before 1929. That house has never been moved, and
No.
I'm not about to move it.
What he's proposing is a garage that puts a wall 4 feet from your house,
Right,
2 feet from the lot line on either side.
right,
And it's that distance that disturbs me.
yes. That's not very far.
So is the lady at 611 Hubbard being asked to pay the price for the redevelopment of the neighborhood?
Yes. They have lowered my value of my house since I bought that place.
Well, I don't wanna get into values, I'm saying that there's a burden that's being placed on the lady at 611 Hubbard for the development plans of the city of Green Bay. I mean, is that a fair way to characterize it?
I guess I wouldn't think so. I know that currently, right now, the way the driveway is, there has been tenants parking there as
Yeah,
well.
we got rid of that.
Okay, so, I mean, I guess I don't see where, I guess you're talking about value, but, you know, I think having the garage there on that site is adding value to the neighborhood, so.
So there were tenants parking in the driveway?
Prior tenants, and when no one owned it, when no one was there, it was abandoned, like I said, it's been abandoned for quite a few years. They just parked up front, by the front of the house, and now, I mean, everybody parked in the back. They have been doing that for the last year and a half.
Did you say that there were people like that were just staying there with, in the,
That house, that
in the
building.
house that we're talking about here? That
There were
weren't
people, yeah,
authorized?
there were, I actually called the police a couple of times and asking, it looked like somebody was going in and out of the windows and living through the building.
They're, do you think what they're proposing will clean that issue up when, you know, if they make it a,
Since I put the lighting up, it has cleaned up. It has cleaned up a lot, and I know when I was working with the police, because there was a lot of traffic, unwanted traffic,
okay.
and I can remember when I first put it up, I was talking to one of the cops, I said, so what do you think? And he was like, with what? And you look, I said, oh my gosh, he was so thrilled. He said, and I haven't had a complaint from the alley, from the old convent that's next door on the other side of the alley. There has not been a complaint because it's dusk to dawn, so it's like having streetlights in the alley now. So they have not complained one iota of it, so I think I've cleaned it up just
Okay.
by owning the property.
Have you been approached by either the current owner of that property or by the city of Green Bay to sell your property?
They have approached me to move my property to Mather Street, and then this is a nice street because it's less traffic, and there is a family that lives upstairs, there's younger kids, and it's nice to have a street that's not well-traveled. They have tried to offer, but they have never given me a price of how much they would offer me the house, and I know I have worked on increasing the value of that home for a long time.
We did offer to purchase the house outright as well. The second option was to work with her to move the property to another property we own on Mather. That way she could retain ownership of a rental property and, you know, still have the income from that, while we would then take over that lot, so. We did have both options out there.
But they never gave me a
What would be
price
your
for that.
intentions on taking over that lot? What would it be?
Were to add it to this property, to the 159 North Maple, to add a larger yard and make more room for a garage on that site. So to make it, basically to enlarge 159 North Maple's lot.
Further questions of anyone? Did you care to say?
Well, I was just gonna say, as far as discussing price of the, you know, acquisition of that property, I had asked we usually do a property walkthrough before we would negotiate any pricing. So that's why, no, there wasn't a price negotiated at that time.
And Mr. Techmeyer, do you have a comment?
Yeah, there's just one thing I'd like to add, and that was, we were planning on using steel siding, so that does increase the fire resistivity. And if it would help at all to do a drywall fire barrier, and I also have noted that your property is also steel siding, so that also would help, you know, because they would be close together. All those elements combined, I think, would reduce the likeliness of a fire spreading by quite a bit.
Further questions of either the applicant or the lady that's a neighbor?
Can I whisper a question?
No. Could you have a seat, ma'am? We'll begin our deliberation. Did you have a comment?
Well, I don't know if I can ask this question, that's why I was going.
Well, it's a public meeting, Tommy, so.
I know. I guess I'll just ask it.
Go
My
ahead.
question is, say you guys had made a deal with her, moved the property, or had purchased that property, would this garage be the planned garage? Or would you have done something different?
I guess at the time that we had approached to acquire that property, we didn't have a plan for the garage yet. We didn't have a developer selected at that time. I guess what we were thinking was probably a detached garage. It probably wouldn't have been the attached garage, but we did think a garage was necessary for the development.
You've raised the pertinent point. The correct way to develop this property is to purchase that. As the lady even pointed out, it was quite likely on the back of that property that got turned into her house somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
Certainly the correct way to redevelop this property would be to acquire that other parcel and put in a proper sized garage. And what we've been asked to approve a variance on tonight, I think, is a poor second to that other alternative. I don't like it because I believe that the 4 feet is a burden on the neighbor at 611. I think she has a reasonable expectation of having the city's ordinances enforced in that regard. And I frankly, as I raised this before, I believe she's being asked to bear the burden of the redevelopment to the extent that the city or whomever decided not to give her a price on 611. So I don't care to get into that, and I would vote against the variance that we did with the course for that reason. But I'm 1 of 4, gentlemen, so.
Well, 1 of 3. Oh, yeah.
No, 1 of 4.
Yeah. I feel like my thought is, it's like cart and horse. You know what I mean? Like, there sounds like there's larger plans and conversations that need to happen, and this is like a fallback position.
Yep.
And I feel like we're being asked to kind of like, again, the word catalyst, you know, this decision kind of starts to affect certain things, and I feel like there's larger conversations that probably should happen before we make a final decision on what's gonna happen with this property. And if those conversations are open, then I would say no. If those conversations are closed and nothing's ever gonna happen there, then that changes the dynamics a little bit for me.
What do you mean about bearing the burden of the development? I don't understand that.
The burden is that she's got a garage placed 4 feet from the wall of her house.
Oh, you're not talking about financially to her
No.
or what?
Well,
Okay.
I'm not even inferring that she's gonna lose value in her house. I'm saying that there's a burden that's being placed on her, simply because she's has a reasonable expectation of the ordinances that the city has that aren't being enforced. And furthermore, they're being, the variance is being requested to facilitate a redevelopment that may be in her interest, may not be, but could have been done a different way. And I think the city or the developer is making the assumption that this variance is gonna come through and this shoehorned garage is gonna be acceptable, and I just don't believe that it's fair to the lady next door to have that happen.
Well, I'm gonna be the stick in the mud here. Admittedly, it could have been done better, all right? And when I drove by the house, and I mean, the windows are out, doors are out, and I'm looking at the property, and there's a driveway that's kind of, going that way, where that driveway, and then I looked around on Hubble Street, there's an entranceway that the heating guys are using. I'm thinking, okay, well, how is all this gonna work? And then I hear that they're gonna get rid of the one driveway on the side of the house and use the access from Hubble. I thought, yeah, that sounds good. And that they're also gonna take, and they're not gonna, I mean, there's already an existing, I'm not sure, a little building hanging off the back of it, okay? And they're gonna take that off to make room for the garage. And we've got an area here where, yeah, there's no way they could conform to a 25-foot setback, okay? I mean,
They already are.
right, no, but I mean, if they were to put a brand-new house there, there'd be a 25-foot backyard setback, and it's like, what? No, there's just no way that can happen. So I think we kind of have to make allowances for the age of the neighborhood and the nature of the neighborhood. There is a path in the event that this becomes untenable, and I think the city has a burden too, to act in good faith with respect to relocating the house to a different street. I mean, that to me, that's a win there. We'd be moving that house, making a bigger yard and a garage back there. I think that would be a real stake in the ground for developing that area in a better fashion, okay? I mean, it's a tough neighborhood, and I give the folks credit. Man, oh man, you know, that's risky business. Having that kind of faith to be able to turn that around.
Well, somebody started to work on something before they had the variance to build the garage, didn't they?
Well, I mean, make sure I'm on the same page. You can still develop this house
Right,
without a garage,
right. which-
right?
yeah.
You're just think part of the long-term plan and the value of this house is adding a garage, because most
Yeah.
people want. I mean, I bought my house in Astor, and it has an attached garage, and it's one of the few there, you know what I mean? So,
Right.
that's great, right? So, that's the idea. You can still develop this house and potentially do what you guys set out to do without the garage, correct? Right? So, I just wanna make sure, okay. Cool.
Okay, where I live on Cass Street,
You're on Cass.
yeah,
Oh, we're neighbors.
okay. My garage to my neighbor's garage, we're talking 1928 vintage homes, okay? Yeah, we're not talking much more than 4 feet.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to try and do any kind of a grandfather setback, probably back in the 1930s, they'd have got away with it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it was. And
Yeah,
two-
just to be clear, Tom, I'm not trying to argue the 25-foot setback on what is obviously a sign. To me, and, you know, we've been through this business on corner lots before. I would be willing to accept a variance that would, or accept a setback on the back of the property in question that would be conforming with what would ordinarily be a side yard setback. But that's not being proposed here either. We're talking 2 feet. 2 feet instead of whatever, like 8.
Yeah.
So, that's the basis for mine, just to clarify my argument.
If it was 8, be okay with it.
Yeah.
But
I'm
that
not
makes
against
it,
the garage, I'm against the
Mhm.
the impinging on the lady at 611.
and 8, if it was 8 feet, it could be a single stall, but not a two, because that, you're proposing a two-car.
Yeah, at 8 feet, we would be able to get a very oversized one-stall garage, where like another 2 feet, we would be able to get that the 2-door wide door on there to make it a 2-stall garage, but if it was at 8 feet, yeah, it would only be about 14 feet wide, and the door is 16 feet, so we need at least 20, so I guess we would need like a 4-foot.
I have one question.
Yes.
Who in their right mind is gonna move a 1929 house?
Well, I think they're proposing to move your household.
What's that?
They would propose to move your household and not your
Yeah, but-
house.
I wouldn't do that to any house that old.
Well, no, you'd be asked to move to a different residence.
Yeah, and they asked me to move to the busiest street in town.
Yeah, yeah. I understand your concern. They wouldn't be moving the house. If they moved you, they'd tear down the house and put in a larger garage. Well, we can, if we've got a resolution on this, or do we think we have a resolution on this?
I think I'm with Tom, which complicates it for us. I'm okay with it, if that's the direction you're at.
Okay, we'll put it up for a vote, if we're ready to go.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Where I'm at is, I guess my vote is pushing it off. I feel like there's more conversations that need to happen. So can that be like a no, but have some conversations and come back so they don't have to pay again kind of thing? Because I just
No,
feel like
no.
we're stuck in the middle of it. We're making a decision based on conversations need to happen.
Well,
If I'm-
that's fair.
If, I feel like ultimately if I'm supporting what's trying to happen for a lot of parts of Green Bay, right? Like it's just a town that needs to kind of be redeveloped, different areas need to be redeveloped in certain ways. But if we squeeze something in to get something done, I think we're selling the whole idea of it short, is how I feel. So I feel
Here's
like.
my thinking on it is, you know, why I'm in favor of it is, people have an expectation of having a garage. This is you know, a small lot, and they've got a good development plan. It sounds like the way things sit right now doesn't really bode well for that neighborhood. She talked about squatters in that house and all sorts of other activity. And I actually think this is gonna be beneficial for that area.
But I think the squatters thing, just to kind of take that one off the table, I feel like they're solving that already by redeveloping the house. So like the garage doesn't make the squatter situation come or go.
Well, I'm just talking about, they're probably gonna attract some people that may be interested in buying that house, or they won't have that issue. I'm not saying that for certain, but
The squatters are because of it was abandoned for 8 years.
okay. And then the other, you know, when we give people side yards, I mean, we compare it to a side yard, we don't always enforce the 8 foot, you know, so, you know, we also accommodate people on the side yards. So that's just my reasoning for being in favor of it.
Well, you raise a point that we can raise with the applicant. Mr. Tackmeyer, it appears from the voting, we have not called the vote yet. It appears from the voting that you may lose your variance request if we go carry it forward to a vote tonight. Are you interested in having this issue delayed and tabled for a month, with perhaps other discussions being made between you and the city, or other possible plans that you may come up with? Or do you believe you're in a position where you want to fish or cut bait one way or the other tonight?
I guess I believe that in our time frame that we're looking to finish this house, that if we were to push it off a month, we might not have time to finish the garage, so then it'd either be a garage or no garage type of situation. But I guess it would hinge on what further discussion needs to be made. Is it the discussion of whether or not that house is gonna get, what's gonna happen to the other house, or is it a discussion of changing the size of the garage? Because if it's a discussion of moving or doing something with the other property, that's a long-term type of plan. And we're planning on having a community-wide open house end of June for this property. So we're trying to stay on track for that.
The roof's not falling.
Okay, you didn't really give me the answer.
Well, I guess what kind of, I mean.
I mean, I hate to put you in this position, but it's
Right.
it's your money and it's your application,
Yeah,
so.
are we talking about what, I guess it sounds to me that if what you guys are looking for is it's too crammed if we were to put this garage here, and so in order to solve that issue, we'd have to address something with 611. So are you guys talking about a discussion of the city purchasing that property, or are we talking about a discussion of me changing the size of the garage? What discussion are you addressing?
Any of those. The only reason I bring it up with you is because of the fact that if we delay it, that may have a bigger concern to you than not taking. the
Right.
But you may be also in a position of sitting there and thinking, well, you know, geez, if they just let me talk about this some more, I think I can reason this through. In which case, we would be happy to give you the extra time. But otherwise, it's up to you. We'll go for a vote tonight if you'd like. And then it's all done and you know your situation,
Right.
good or bad. And I can't tell you I know exactly what the vote is. I can tell you I know what 3 of the votes are.
I'm looking from our standpoint here as the city's position on this. It doesn't seem like the option of acquiring the property behind it is really on the table at all. So I guess it would be seeing if we could make the smaller garage, or making it work some other way. I think so far the city's already, we've invested some money into this as well, so it's not just the Tackmeyer's money here that we're looking at for making this project successful.
I guess, could we change the setback to 6 feet and vote on that instead of 2 feet?
So you propose that you'd accept a 6-foot setback,
Yes,
which would put a wall 8 feet from the
that is correct.
lady's property.
Yep.
Yeah, that would work for me.
Okay.
You've got
Well,
3
that-
votes if that's what
What
you
does the lady think?
I'd be okay with 1 foot, because 7 foot is the variance. 7 foot is,
He's proposing a 6-foot from the lot line.
right, which is the end of the, right
And
at
then
the
you've
end
got
of the
2
driveway.
feet on your lot. So there'd be 8 feet between his wall and
And
yours.
our house, yes, that'd be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't need-
Well, we have to amend his request, right? Because as it's requested.
Yeah, do you want to make the motion? You want me to?
Yeah, you can,
Go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the modified variance request, to make the request 6 feet from the lot line, that he would then be able to build his garage at a smaller size.
Just be aware there's 2 variances.
Yeah, and then
Oh.
the impervious.
And then approve the impervious surface as well.
I'll second.
okay, we have a motion made by Mr. Babcock, seconded by Mr. Hoy, that reinterprets the variance request before us tonight to the extent that there be a 6-foot setback from the property line between the 159 property and the 611 property. And we also are granting a variance on the impervious surface. Did I restate it correctly?
Yes, you did.
Is there further discussion? All in favor?
Hi.
Aye. 4-0. We're good.
That's excruciating.
Poor Noel, he was just sitting.
I gotta fix that thing.
Okay. We'll move on to item number 3. This is the item that the Alderman cared to talk on eventually too, perhaps. Anyway, the item is 1653 Nancy Avenue. That's the Swigutowskis.
Feel like I should clap after that one.
Gets better.
I'm Deb Smikatowski.
Oh, yes.
You're Deb and you're Patrick.
You're right.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Just before we get with you guys, let me ask, is there anyone else that would care to speak for or against this issue tonight? Mr. Alderman, you may or may not, as interest may appear.
Afterwards.
Okay. I want to make sure there's nobody left out. Very well. You have a case to make before us tonight on
I'd
the
like
variance.
to request a variance for our alderman.
That one we can't grant.
Thought I'd try anyway. What we want to do is, you guys saw that we built a new garage. And so we want to keep the construction, the exterior, the design characteristics, and carry that over to the house. That is an
And
amazing
that was on
drawing.
to scale, it doesn't look like it anymore.
So I mean, we're gonna put the stone siding, everything on the house too. But we would kinda like to dress things up a little bit and cover the porch, not enclose it, but just to bring there you go, okay, you can see the gable, on the roof itself. We'd like to bring that out and cover the porch. And kinda dress it up with, some small stone bases and then, wrought iron columns. We're limited by the 25 square feet rule, to my understanding. The only thing I could find in the building codes was that at an entry or exit, you had to have a minimum of 3 by 3. But I couldn't find a maximum limit. But with that said, what we'd like to do is the porch itself, you saw the dimensions on there. We'd like to widen the porch because in the lower right corner, you really can't see it. but it's right there. When they poured the foundation way back when, they backfilled it with clay, and they damaged the foundation. So they ended up pouring more concrete on the inside and outside. So it's kind of an unsightly thing, just aesthetics, functionality, it does matter. But we'd like to kind of cover that up, widen the porch, not go any closer towards the sidewalk, but widen the porch. It's currently 6 feet wide, roughly.
Yeah, roughly 6 feet,
And we'd like to bring that
5 feet.
gable roof and overhang it on the porch and widen the porch to about 10 feet wide. But it doesn't affect the offset at all. And it's just, it's really covering the porch and purely aesthetics. There's really no other function than that.
So the principal case you're making, at least as I interpret it, is that you're saying that the front step right now, the front of that front step right now would be essentially the same as the front of the front step for the new,
That is correct.
for the new construction. What you're doing is
Well,
widening.
Yes.
Yeah,
From
all we're
our
doing is-
perspective, you're widening,
Right.
not coming
Yeah.
forward.
Overhang.
And the overhang, well, yeah. Well, you're getting ahead of my argument.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I understand the overhang is under the same rule of 25 square feet.
Yeah, no, well, that's a good point, because I want to ask our poor staff person at the end of the table, where did the 25 feet come from? I couldn't find it either.
Yeah, it's really more of a policy. So what this is it's an encroachment into the front setback. So you take an average of the homes in the block, and this one, it's part of the principal structure happens to encroach on that setback. There's a policy with our staff that you can add a porch, but it has to be less than 25 square feet in size, or 5 by 5 roughly, is acceptable to encroach into the setback.
Okay.
But this is part of the principal structure.
What they're proposing here, to the extent that we accept their front porch stoop as a construction and as a part of the house, that they're already encroaching into and away from the front interface of the rest of the properties on the street.
Possibly, I mean,
This makes it more visible.
makes it more visible. I'm not sure about the current size. It might be compliant with our policy, so to speak, but now that there's a physical change, an enlargement,
Yeah,
that's why it's before you.
right. Okay.
What's the enclosure when you say, like, what is it? Is it like a see-through thing, closure?
There's no enclosure
Oh.
whatsoever, it's just the roof coming out,
Uh-huh.
some columns,
Oh, okay.
and sitting right
We
on
want
top
to
of
keep
the...
that, the gable, like where it is, but just build the roof out to cover the porch, so that people come to the front door,
Oh.
knock on the door, they're
Okay.
not standing there in the rain, you're not fumbling with your key, you know,
I gotcha.
getting rained on, and,
It's not like, it's not enclosed.
no,
type
yeah,
thing.
we
Okay.
want support columns,
I didn't
you know, at the
understand.
two front corners, but it'll still be wide open.
Okay.
And my interpretation of the spirit of what the ordinance is, and of course, I'm just speculating, but we don't want large decks on the front of a house and essentially have a completely different spirit to
Well-
the neighborhood's front yards if we did that.
Right, they start encroaching or start getting bigger, maybe not with this property owner, but other property owners
Yeah,
through time.
yeah. I think I understand what needs to be done here. Any other questions of the applicants? Okay, if you could have a seat. Mr. Story, did you have a
Yes.
comment?
Yes, thank you. Well, you might be familiar with the Swikatowski's, what they did last year, you know, with the garage. You know, they've improved this property greatly. And I did come over and visit with them about it. I think there's always this issue about maybe grandfathering something in. I think with the porch itself, I did look to the right, and it's a little bit unsightly, and I think they're really just trying to clean up that spot right there. They are limited a little bit because, you know, they're a corner lot, and they just want to bring that out a little bit. The garage will be facing on Nancy as well. Before, it used to be over on Murphy. And that was a real issue because they were really constricted with space, but just getting to the porch itself, I had no issue with it whatsoever. I thought it was actually well-designed, come out a little bit further, and I think, you know, the fact that it would keep people dry, it's not gonna be a deck.
Right.
They're not gonna be using it for entertaining, it's more or less just for aesthetics, and it's for protection of people that come to the door. So, with that being said, I have no issue whatsoever, and I would like to see it happen.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Motion would be in order if we're where we need to be.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, interpreting, you know, the hardship here being, you know, the protection from the elements when entering the door, and since they're not going any closer to the street, I'm fully in favor, and I move to approve the variances requested.
Well, second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Mr. Helverson, seconded by Mr. Hoy to approve the variance requested for the Swikotowski's property on Nancy Avenue. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, finally, we have the Jehovah's Witnesses facility on Cedar Road. And your name is?
Jesse Gertz.
Okay. What's your case?
So as we look at the property, what we were looking at originally was simply resurfacing the lot, not really making any modifications to the lot at all. That's really what we were looking at doing, but as we take a look at the lot, simply doing a resurface, which would require permits, all these other issues that we're facing. We looked at our base, we had some soil samples taken, and that's part of what's creating some of the issues in the longevity of the parking lot there. And we want to keep a parking lot that looks good, is going to have a good long life to it, and that's going to require us fixing the base. And because we are in several locations, perhaps you noticed on the plans, you can see this location where we're going to have to do some repairs to the base. That now brings it into what's called the reconstruction. And because that, all the codes now come into place. Basically, what would happen is if we were required to meet the code requirements for this, we would lose probably 15 spots. At this time, we're using that parking lot to its maximum ability. At the same time, we're having very little overflow into the street, but if we were to implement the code, we would have a lot of impact in that neighborhood. And that's one of our biggest concerns, because we have residential off to the one side with the duplexes. When we look off to the right, we have some commercial, high-traffic street location, not good facilities for pedestrians to cross Superior. So we'll look at safety of our congregation members. If we were to have to start implementing street parking because of the loss of parking spaces within our lot. Property's been there 30-plus years. Again, we're not looking at making any major modifications to the lot, anything like that. It's simply because we now need to do repairs to the base as we redo the surface that we're running into this issue.
So this is a reconstruction of the lot as it exists now? It's going to
Almost
be-
identical, except for we're looking at maybe a 4% change in grade, and we're gonna have to go through the engineering work and all that to make sure the proper erosion control, all those things taken care of. So we can make some minor modifications, but no major modifications to the parking plan as it exists currently.
Yeah.
We actually would love to have not had to do any of the underground work, but we just know if we do that, we're just putting a Band-Aid over it. And we wanna look long-term, we do this lot, keep it looking nice. It has a frontage there, which is a pretty high visibility frontage. We wanna keep that looking nice. The nice thing is you look at this location, the frontage that we do have is where our green space is located. The majority of the parking lot is highway access, those other areas. And so it's, the impact to the neighborhood is actually minimized by keeping it as it is existing. Whereas if we make any adjustments or changes, or we have to bring it up to this code, it's gonna affect safety, it's gonna affect perhaps city infrastructure, providing additional lighting in that area, or crosswalks, those types of things. If people are, for instance, if they're gonna need to park along the thoroughfares there, I'm looking at too in the evening. A lot of our worships take place in the evening, people crossing that with children, older ones. Then you look at, for instance, snow. You can imagine in winter what that would be like if we're having to utilize street parking. So we're just hoping to keep things exactly, well, very close to where it is with very minor adjustments. to the
But Jesse,
location.
just so I'm clear too, what you're saying is that you could keep it as is, but you'd just be constantly applying some sort of temporary fix that would continue to be a problem because of there's some subsurface challenges that you're working on here.
Exactly, and our philosophy is we're looking long-term. We want this lot to be good for 25 years with being able to just do regular maintenance and repairs on it. Whereas if we just go over this, would be the point where we would kind of be at, because we lose so much parking, which would really make the property unusable for us because of the safety concerns.
I have one question for you.
Yeah.
From, in that picture up there, if you go to the east from Superior and Finger Road,
Mm-hmm.
that whole block does not have curb and gutter. Is that true for your little portion of Finger Road as well?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so green above your property line there.
Right.
And I guess I would like to point out that one of the options that the applicant has put forward is street park. Perhaps as the result of losing spaces according to the ordinance, if the ordinance was enforced. They don't have curb and gutter there. And certainly if he was to go on the other side of the street, you are crossing a very busy street, which Superior is. Even if he was going to rely on street parking up somehow, some way on Finger, you're crossing a swale, you're crossing more than you may expect to see, so I can sympathize with some of the concerns that you have regarding the safety of your people attending your church, especially if they're evening. So I think this is fine, and this may be a situation where we're in violent agreement, as we sometimes are.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
I'm okay.
Are you guys redoing the driveways as well?
The access points, those are we're looking at bringing up and having them uniform and make sure the access is done. Those are things we are going to comply with.
I drove it, and yeah, it's a little bumpy. I like the fact that they do have existing green space on the front of the building, and then there's also some trees. If we had a different look here, maybe like the overhead of it.
Sure.
Where you see that kind of notch there, that kind of almost a triangle part there, they've got trees in there, and I think they made a best effort as far as trying to provide landscaping to it. I agree with you in regards to Finger Road, because I thought, well, gosh, if they park on Finger Road, well, the person on the passenger side is not gonna wanna get out,
Right.
okay?
Exactly.
Because they'll tumble into the swale.
I mean, there's no sidewalk there, you're just gonna, fall off into that little ditch there, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know exactly about that. I've been by this place for 40 years, so I know.
You're gonna add here you're going to add curb.
No, we don't have any plans for curb. We're just going to make the more uniform, but we don't have anything for changing the valley that's there and redoing any of that.
What does this part right here mean? Add concrete sidewalk and concrete bumper strip.
That's right along, if you look, we had asphalt. If you look at the plan, it's up right along the back side of the let me see.
This side?
Whoop, right here, along the back,
Oh, okay.
right along there.
Got it.
One of the things we're finding is that sometimes having the green space right up, or not just green space, but just the asphalt running up to a building, we're running into issues with grade, moving, and so we're putting the concrete, a nice concrete sidewalk right along the back of the building. Whereas before with the asphalt, you start to get cracking, other issues, and then there's no clear access up to that, because there's a doorway on the back side. There's just no clear access. This, we can have clear access that we shovel and that we keep salted. And one of our main concerns as we're looking at this is not impacting the neighborhood. And we've worked real well with our neighbors, and we just at all costs want to avoid using street parking. And we know that right now we sometimes even have one vehicle, which typical, but by and part, we've been able to avoid that. And keeping our congregation sizes a little bit more limited too, and so that we don't have as much impact on the neighborhood. So we're doing everything we can to work with the neighborhood. So, for instance, that street parking, look there, you have those duplexes there. If they're wanting to park, have guest parking, as well as around the way. We just would rather not have an evening where we're just taking up all the parking in that area.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Are all the folks here in support?
Anybody else care to speak one way or the other on this?
Raise your hands if you're in support of the action.
Mr. Gertz has a following, it's good to see you.
I would move approval of the variances as requested.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Mr. Halverson, seconded by Mr. Babcock to approve the variance that have been requested for the Jehovah's Witnesses property on the corner of Mason and Finger. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, Paul, did you want to, we have an informational thing here, I believe you wanted to bring up.
Yes.
I assume this relates to some of the issues that Tom brought up a couple of meetings ago.
Right, so going back to the January meeting, I think Alderman Zima was here at that meeting, and he had made a request after that meeting to our staff to review parking in front of residential dwellings, basically. So we took that in, we talked as staff about it, we did contact the fire department and the police department, and those responses are attached. I think they had similar thoughts for their reasoning there. So, we took this back to the Plan Commission in March. We had a discussion with the Plan Commission members. Alderman Zima was there as well. But they concluded not to change the ordinance at that time. So that recommendation went to council on March 20th as a report to council, and there was no further discussion. So the best guidance we can give you, I guess, right now is what Police and Fire has provided for their comments. So, again, when those circumstances come up, each is unique, I suppose, in its own way, but you have some guidance, I guess, officially from the Police and Fire.
So this issue this is the second time, I believe, since I've been on this board, you or somebody from planning has brought this issue up with the council.
Right.
Neither time did they change their mind. And in this fact, in this point, to the extent that Tom goaded a few people sufficiently, we've got comments from fire and people. So I'd say the issue's been pretty well resolved, at least it should be resolved pretty much for our.
In the short term, I guess,
Yeah.
yeah.
At
We'll
least
probably have
we-
this discussion going forward again.
Yeah, but at least we know exactly what, you can't say that this was one of those ordinances that were, maybe not considered as completely as others. This one was, and so now we have what we need to know.
So that item that was discussed in January should be coming back to you. I wanted to give you a little time to think about it. There was I think it's Fern Street. They'll come back for your review next week.
Okay. That's good.
So,
Who gets to talk about the software?
well, I can.
we
Would you mind
adjourn?
giving us, I guess we need a motion for, if any informational item, we need a motion, so if we could get a motion from,
Really?
yes.
And to receive and place everything on file that is an informational report at this time.
Move to receive and place on file.
Second. I can second every now and then. All in favor? Aye. Go.
Well, I sent out an email earlier this week, just talking about our new software that we're working on for agendas and minutes. So you've gotten the email, we're trying to phase this in over time. Hopefully the next meeting we'll have tablets available where you can vote. But in that email I sent, big thing there is your password. This will be unique to you. So when you come to the meeting, you'll have a chance to log in. And hopefully in the future, we'll be sending all of our materials electronically, and you'll be able to log in to Civic Clerk, you'll be able to view them, make notes, and of course at the meeting time, vote on them. So just want to give you a heads up that we're using it right now as part of our process, but you won't actually use it, I suppose, until the next meeting that comes up.
Okay.
So we will have the tablets next time?
We hope so, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll make those available. You can also use your own personal device, but I think Mike, our IT person, had recommended using the tablets. They might be a little faster and be all charged up and ready to go.
Sure.
Sweet.
So going forward for the next meeting, will we be able to use the software to look at the information?
That's the idea, yeah. So we're gonna try and post all of our stuff there.
Well, and it's up, for this agenda, it was already on there. I mean, I
Yeah.
looked at these items on there.
Yeah, so we're trying to get away from the actual mailings and the hard copies, so
Okay.
you will be alerted, when we publish to the board, you'll be alerted via an email, I guess, that is available. You can go in and take a look at it after you log in.
And then if you make notes and so forth on your new device that's here, if you just use a tablet, that would all be saved.
I believe so, as long as you log into your account, yeah, should all be
Okay.
saved.
I was on it today too, and I found it to be very slow.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe.
And that's another
What did
reason
you
to
do?
use the devices, to use the tablets. Here, Mike will have a separate network, so to speak, or Wi-Fi that'll be a little faster than your
It'll be
personal
local
device.
as opposed to over the internet or
Right.
something.
So these emails I've
Oh,
been
that might make
getting
a
from
big
Civic
difference.
Clerk, I thought it was spam.
They
Yeah.
look like spam.
I did
Yeah.
that too. I was gonna
I
say
was
the
like, I'm
same
not
thing.
opening this.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I know that I put a Civic Clerk one from a while
Yeah.
back in spam, and
You want me to forward it to you?
Well, no, originally, until I got this,
We're
I'm like,
okay.
what is this? You know, I've never
Yeah.
seen something
We're
like
trying
that.
to catch up, yeah.
I ran into I can't remember her name, but the one that had sent out the one.
Yeah.
I happened to be walking down the street and saw her, and I was like, I need to talk to you. Like,
Yeah.
your email's been hacked or whatever. And she's like, no, we're just testing it. I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, I didn't open it either. I was like, I'm not opening it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's recommended to watch the videos. If you have questions, let
Oh,
me
yeah.
know, or let Shelby know, we can help you through the
Okay.
process. We're trying to make this as painless as possible and as efficient as possible at the same time.
reminds me of the corporate transfer changeovers that we had many times, and it's never fun, but such is life.
I think the
Can't even
challenge,
avoid it after I've been retired for 12
I
years.
think the challenge is gonna be for the people on the council, myself.
Oh, yeah.
There's some older folks there. I mean, I'm old, okay, I'll admit that I don't encourage a whole lot of change, or at least step change anyway. But I think there's some folks there that are, good luck, Paul.
Speaking of the council, I'm glad that there's no alderman here. I was curious, is Dwayne still the guy for that last one? Have they changed over yet?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow they get sworn in.
Oh, tomorrow, okay, done.
So today is officially the last.
Okay, got it.
So if you wouldn't mind, when you have a chance to make a motion on that, and you can.
Make a motion to receive and, what was that?
Place on file.
Place on file.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion made by Mr. Babcock, seconded by Mr. Halverson to place on file the information that we have just received regarding the new software system. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Move to adjourn?
One more item. One more item. We will note that the date of the next meeting is such and such, but we also need to have a election of officers.
Is that?
This is every spring, every spring.
We did it late last year, yeah.
Yeah,
We can
well,
put it on there, sure.
but we need to have it on the agenda so we can do it. And it should have been done, strictly speaking, in April or May, I think is what our rules says.
Yep.
Anyway, that's all I had.
We'll do.
So I guess we're all set.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're done. Pass those down.